Coming to you from behind the craziest socialist lines of the Pacific Northwest, local and national news, talk, and opinions, this is the Behind the Line podcast.
So the Seattle City Council released its budget proposal. And this is sort of to counter what Mayor Durkan came up with. This is a story from the Seattle Times from it was updated today on the 10th. But the big takeaway from this is the City Council is mulling a $10 million cut to Seattle Police Department to offset decreasing revenue. And of course, it's drawing criticism from Mayor Durkan and Mayor-elect Harrell, as it's contrary to public safety. And apparently the council just doesn't get it, that the people of this city are sick and tired of this same old crap that we've been dealing with for the last few years. I guess they don't understand that Bruce Harrell being elected and Ann Davison being elected is sort of should have been a wake-up call to them that people are looking for some change when it comes to public safety. Crime is through the roof. The Seattle Police Department is understaffed, way understaffed. And this is just sort of mind-boggling that they keep going against the desires of the people, the taxpayers, and businesses of this city. Instead, focusing on homeless people and people who are leeching off the system. But anyway, the article says Budget Committee Chair Teresa Mosqueda introduced her proposed balanced budget package Tuesday afternoon, suggesting the council make the cuts to the budget Mayor Jenny Durkan proposed in September. And I glanced at her balanced budget package and right away noticed that they had no problem approving some new property taxes on people. Not concerned about public safety, but boy, they want their money. Over the last 7 weeks, we have diligently been working to try and to address many of the items that community members and council members have been flagging to make sure that we address the needs that are compounding throughout our city and invest in a more just and equitable Seattle, Mosqueda said in her presentation on Tuesday. By releasing today's budget, we hope that you will see is a significant investment and a vision for a more equitable, just, safe, healthy, and housed Seattle. Yeah, I don't think so. Since Durkan proposed her original $7.1 billion budget in September, the city's projected revenue for 2022 fell by $15 million, as large employers announced they would continue with remote work through early 2022, exempting employees from the city's Jumpstart payroll tax. This proposed budget was balanced to an August revenue forecast by the city budget office that assumed nearly full return to work by major employers this fall. Council Central Staff Director Esther Handy said during the presentation. She said it appeared by September to be possibly overly optimistic given the ongoing pandemic. City Budget Office Director Ben Noble said Tuesday the August estimate could not predict the impact of the COVID-19 Delta variant on the Jumpstart tax, which will be collected for the first time in early 2022 from businesses with Seattle employees that make at least $150,000 annually. To offset the impact of the revenue decline, Mosqueda focused on cutting the police budget to preserve the council's priorities of addressing affordable housing, homelessness, and criminal justice reform. Well, you know what? They've thrown hundreds of millions of dollars at the homeless problem for the last several years, and it's accomplished nothing. In fact, it's gotten worse. So their methods do not work. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to realize that continuing to shit money down the drain on this problem is not going to solve it. They're wasting hundreds of millions of dollars that could be spent on something else. You can't just give a homeless person a house and expect them to somehow magically lose their mental health problems or drug addictions. Anyway, Durkan criticized Mosqueda's proposal, blaming recent staffing problems in SPD on the council. True. She said the proposal failed to prioritize public safety. Also true. City Council's previous promise to defund SPD by 50%, their treatment of Chief Carmen Best, and their previous layoff budget led to an exodus of 325 officers from SPD in the last 2 years, Durkan said. Of course, Durkan's vaccine mandate didn't help that situation either. Multiple plans to address hiring and retention proposed by Chief Adrian Diaz and I have been repeatedly rejected by a majority of the council. And just yesterday, another council member proposed blocking the emergency hiring proposal that has already generated a tenfold increase in applications to 911 dispatch positions in Seattle, she said. Continued cuts to SPD and underfunding the 911 center are not a plan for true public safety. True. We need alternatives to armed police responses, and we have significantly ramped up these alternatives, Durkan said. But when someone calls 911 with a dangerous, potentially life-threatening emergency, we need enough police officers to respond. I guess the current city council people just don't understand that. I don't know what they think, but they're not listening to the people who spoke their mind in this last election. Mayor-elect Bruce Harrell also criticized the proposal in a separate statement, saying the results of last week's election, in which Harrell was elected over Progressive City Council President Lorena Gonzalez, show the city's desire for public safety. Last Tuesday, the voters of Seattle resoundingly and unambiguously rejected defunding the police, Harrell said. Our campaign expressed a clear message and commitment. We must deliver true community safety, ensure unbiased policing, and decrease length of response times by improving training, hiring more and better officers, creating unarmed and alternative responses, and changing the culture within SPD. That vision and those goals for improvement and reform cannot be achieved with this proposed $10 million cut. The council will be briefed on Mosqueda's proposal at 9 a.m. Wednesday, and will hear from members of the public in a hearing at 5:30 p.m. That is today. All council meetings are remote and can be accessed at seattle.gov/council. If you're concerned about this, I suggest you get on there and let them know what you think about it. A final budget vote is expected November 22nd. Late Tuesday, Mosqueda said that her proposal would still fully fund the requirements of the federally mandated reform consent decree, as well as the Durkan administration's hiring plan, and was a matter of offsetting revenue shortfalls, not an affront on public safety. Yeah, they are such flannel-mouthed, can't, speak the truth. It's just typical of these ultra-liberal politicians. Of course we still need officers. Absolutely we need officers. We funded the full hiring plan. I think the suggested staffing level for Seattle PD is around 1,500 officers, and we're down at 800 and something. So she's completely full of it. She's lying. This is just the same thing from these council members that we've gotten for the last several years, which has gotten no results and has made a drastic decline in the safety and security and cleanliness of this city. You can't walk anywhere without running into homeless people, some crazy dude on the street acting out of his mind. There's garbage and needles everywhere. I'm not quite sure what this council is what they're going for. But this is not an inviting, safe place to be. Just about anywhere in the city now. I mean, every place is touched by these problems. It doesn't do any good to have less officers on the street. Crime is the highest it's been. That doesn't. What is the? I would love to know what the council's explanation is for that. If it's not the reduction of police officers at the police department and the legalization of drugs and camping anywhere you want in the city. Please explain this to us. Why all these problems have arisen, since it supposedly would not have anything to do with your policies. City council is just a bunch of fools, and Sawant's got her recall vote coming up. I certainly hope that people show the council what they think of these ultra-liberal policies by voting her off the council when that comes up. She's got no business being on this council or moving forward with the city and establishing policies for public safety, or even on homelessness. Nothing they've done has worked. All they've done is been very careless and reckless with the city budget and hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes, while they continue to raise all our taxes to pay for more and more of this garbage. It needs to stop. So if you're available today at 5 o'clock, I would jump online and let the council know that you don't agree with cutting the police department budget. I'm all for adding additional officers, unarmed officers who are social type workers and can provide those services that officers can't or aren't trained to, but you cannot cut police officers. They still need to respond to these calls. You'd think the council would have got that message with this last election, but apparently they haven't. The only way they're going to get this message is if you make your voice heard and do it continually. You need to reach out and contact these people and let them know that you don't agree with their policies and their budget cuts. And it is time for some real change in the city of Seattle.
Coming to you from behind the craziest socialist lines of the Pacific Northwest, local and national news, talk, and opinions, this is the Behind the Line podcast.